Have a history of mental illness, but she was admitted here at St Vincent's on several occasions for displaying suicidal tendencies. She'd also been admitted to Larundel, but Hanover Welfare Services maintains this was only because the woman was a danger to herself.
We have assisted her and dealt with her in circumstances where she was in an agitated state. At no time had she ever threatened us or been violent to any of our staff.
Hanover welfare workers remain unmoved in their support for the government's policies of deinstitutionalisation and are not calling for a broad-ranging inquiry, something the Premier has just about ruled out.
I'm not a great man for committees, royal commissions, judicial inquiries. Invariably they're very long, very protracted, very costly, and they don't...
But he's welcomed the news that all officers will receive additional training in an attempt to curb police shootings. The training program to help officers negotiate with dangerous offenders without resorting to violence was announced by the Police Commissioner yesterday. Meanwhile, friends of the dead woman placed flowers in St Kilda today at the place where she died. Her name has still not been released.
The Labor Party is on the verge of approving the Keating government's plan to put the country's major airports up for lease. But on the eve of the ALP conference, a deal between the right-wing and the centre-left faction has cut the length of leases back to just 50 years. There's also a move to change the Three Mines uranium policy by setting a Safeguards Council to approve additional mines. Political correspondent Jib Middleton.
Snow on Mount Wellington, Hobart in the cold. The ALP in conference, it's a recipe which goes back nearly a decade, and now Labor is about to do it again. Sunday is faction meeting time. The centre-left met Laurie Brereton and Kim Beazley this afternoon over privatisation of the nation's airports. The faction, which holds the balance of power, is signalling it will support the government's plans as long as they guarantee the survival of regional airports.
We'll be insisting on any package containing those sort of protection measures.
The centre-left only touched on expansion of the Three Mines policy briefly today, but there is support within the faction for change. Cabinet ministers have been discussing the idea of a joint government industry union council to monitor any expansion, and that has industry support.
We would be supportive of such an arrangement, provided the criteria used to allow mines to go ahead was realistic.
The left, though, won't have a bar of it.
The thought of Australian uranium going to fragile islands to our north in volcanic zones not unlike Rabaul, I think would fill people with a great deal of concern.
Rest Point has been good to the ALP, which has been meeting here since 1986. But now the number of delegates to Labor's national conference is being doubled and the casino will be too small. So it's almost certain the next conference in 3 years' time will be back on the mainland. But before this conference wraps up, it will have endorsed a radical proposal to ensure at least 35% of ALP politicians are women.
There are some young men who think that their career plans have been interrupted. Well, politics isn't a career plan for women or for men.
And the indications are the proposal will be endorsed as is, including its tough sanctions against any branch which does not comply.
Two former shadow ministers have returned to the front bench in Alexander Downer's latest reshuffle. The move fills holes created by the resignation of Andrew Peacock and last month's sacking of John Hewson. Among the promotions, Peter Reith, who goes into Foreign Affairs, and Jocelyn Newman, who takes on Defence.
4 months after resigning from the Shadow Ministry and suffering from cancer, Senator Jocelyn Newman is back and promoted to the position of Defence. She's one of 2 former Shadow Ministers to make a return to the front bench in the reshuffle. And opposition leader Alexander Downer wants to see more women moving up.
It's good to have another woman in our Shadow Cabinet, a woman of ability, a woman of courage and a woman with experience.
Also making a return, David Connolly, who was dropped from the front bench in May. He's now spokesman for superannuation and retirement incomes. As expected, Senator Jim Short, spokesman for Immigration and Ethnic Affairs, will move into Shadow Cabinet. Former Defence spokesman Peter Reith has been promoted to Foreign Affairs, a position made vacant by Andrew Peacock's resignation last week. Former party leader John Hewson, sacked a month ago after being accused of disloyalty, remains firmly on the backbench. Alexander Downer admits he'll miss the experience of Andrew Peacock, but he has no regrets about losing John Hewson.
Well, I'm not saying anything more about the John Hewson affair, but Andrew will be missed. Of course, all things move on, and you can't just depend on the same people indefinitely.
Senior Liberal members are hoping the reshuffle puts an end to the instability which has plagued the party for weeks.
Back overseas, in India's deadly outbreak of pneumonic plague appears to be spreading. More than 300,000 people have fled the epidemic in the city of Surat, north of Bombay. Now, other nearby cities have been declared plague-affected, and health authorities fear the mass migration could lead to deaths across the country. The ABC's Gordon Taylor reports from New Delhi.
Panic has taken hold in the western Indian city of Surat as the plague continues to claim lives. As many as 500,000 people are reported to have fled the city, carrying the disease with them. Plague cases have now been reported in several other cities in the western state of Gujarat. Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao has ordered the Health Ministry to take all necessary measures to contain the disease, which has already claimed